Well, unless there was a situation that you got into that warranted, hey, call your supervisor because you fell through a roof or
I remember I've never I have, and he's saying that because he knows the story about that. I didn't fall through, but my foot went through somebody's ceiling.
Hello, everybody. We're here today with another episode. My name is George.
I'm Uncle Rich.
And then today we have a brand new guest. He's been waiting for a long time to come in.
9 episodes, George.
Yes.
9 episodes.
And we've been asking him for a while. He rescheduled on us a couple times. But that's okay. He's here now. And without further ado, we have
Sir Charles. Glad to be here. I'm excited.
And that's your real name, you said, right?
Long overdue. Yeah, even though Richie doesn't believe me. I don't know. Why would I lie about it? I don't understand why I would lie.
He doesn't believe the sir part, right?
It's on my ID, so I can't fake my ID.
And then the last name.
Have you showed him your ID?
Yeah, you've seen my ID.
I said I've seen it. Even though I've seen it, I'm still like, just
oh, hell no.
Yeah. No, I'm named after, well, technically I'm named after my grandfather. So it's, to make a long story short, we have other sirs in my family, so it's just a continued tradition, so to speak. So even though you don't want to believe me,
that's good. Where was your grandfather? Where is he from?
Okay, my family on my dad's side, half of them are from Belize, half of them are from England, and then my mom's side of the family, I mean, African descent, but I mean like Louisiana, Arkansas, like that area. We've never traced it like far back to know like, oh, like what tribe or anything like crazy like that. You know what I mean? But I know for sure, like obviously, like I said, my dad, Belize, been there, visited family there. And then I know we have Native Americans somewhere in there, but yeah, so I'm kind of like a melting pot of like a whole bunch of different things. So,
nice. Yeah. And you've been to Belize?
Yeah, been only once. I want to go back really bad. I'm 20, well, I'm about to be 28, so about 10 years ago now, I went for the first time. Like I said, it was dope. It was one of those things where, weirdly enough, it felt like home. I don't know how that's possible. You go somewhere that you've never been, but it felt like you knew, part of you like knew where you were. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So really dope. I want to go back really bad. Pandemic made it really hard. Obviously, once 2020 hit, everything kind of shut down.
Do you have family there?
Yeah, I still got
nice.
unfortunately, my father, even though I wasn't close, unfortunately, he did pass away. But I still have family members from his side of the family that I have been in contact with over the years, that still live out there. So that's the main reason I want to go back, is just to visit that side of the family and be with them.
And it's beautiful out there too, right?
Oh, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. Yeah.
Have you been thinking about investing?
I wish. It's crazy too, because like I have family that has like that owns land out there. Like I have family that like actually is doing really well for themselves out there.
Nice.
So I'm like, how do I get in on that? How do I?
We're related, right?
Yeah, like how do I double dip here? You know what I mean? So
give me a tiny percentage of whatever.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, I've been trying to get back for a few years now. So hopefully, I'm thinking next year. I got a couple big trips planned, but I want to make that one of them for sure.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So now that we know Sir Charles a little bit more, you watched some of the episodes, right?
Of course, what a big supporter. Yeah.
All right. And you notice too that we've had a lot of guys that have been with the industry, in the cable industry, for years, like veterans, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like 15 plus years.
Yeah.
And you're one of the ones that has been in the cable industry a little bit less.
Yeah.
So now we get to hear
a lot of bit less.
We get to hear a little bit from your side as
your perspective as like a newcomer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's been cool. I mean, this is year 3 now in the cable industry. I mean, just like any job, it has its ups and downs. You know what I mean? All in all, hey, it pays the bills, so I can't complain that much. You know what I mean?
I think once you get a handle, like for me, even at the beginning, it you don't know clearly what you're doing or which way to go with it, and it makes it that much more challenging. You're almost like you don't even want to go, just simply because you're on stage. As soon as the door opens up, you need to get to work, and they look at you as the professional.
Mm-hmm.
And,
I mean, even now, I kind of feel some of that, and it's weird to say because it's like I said, this is year 3 now that I've entered the cable industry, and it's just like
exactly 3 years or 3 years and change?
3 years and change. It would have been 3 years and earlier this year, I think. Like,
But it seems like
April
yesterday.
time.
I remember when you first came in and you looked like a deer with the.
But that's what
With
I'm
the
saying.
headlights.
Like, it's weird, right? Because you would think 3 years in, I'd have like some more certainty, but there's still some times you're like, what's kind of going? You're still kind of figuring it out, you know. So
Yeah.
I feel like I was talking about it with another guy who is also in the cable industry, and it's just like, when does it click? You know what I mean? Like, when does it fully like hit you that you're like, oh yeah, this is exactly how I need to do? Like, when does it ever like really hit you? You know?
But it's because there's so many changes in the industry
man.
overall, not just with the company, but in the industry overall.
Oh yeah.
So
man.
there's always something new.
But I mean,
new
every
technology.
house can be different. You can have the same issue. I mean,
Oh,
if a lot of the guys that were here from before we're here, they would tell you,
Yeah.
finding me on the side of the house rolling up. I'm angry. I'm talking to the splitters. I'm just, you know, you're. It's like the
Yeah.
cavalry's coming. Jeez, thank God, because I don't know what I'm doing here. You know.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and think about it too. We had RV in the last episode,
Mhm.
and he was telling us how there was only 15 channels
Yeah.
back in the days.
Something like that.
Yeah,
No
you gotta
internet,
worry
no
about-
phone service,
Man,
no.
That's the crazy part is when I go to certain houses and they're like, yeah, I'm missing channel 832, and I'm like, I don't
You
know
know
what
what that is,
800,
yeah.
like what is 832? Like nobody knows that channel, you know, but
Yeah.
I gotta be the one that fixes it somehow.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Is the
And you
one
know the
of-
thing, like you're saying, so a lot of these guys, including myself,
Mhm.
you know, we started at a time when there was no phone, there
Mhm.
was no internet, so you
Mhm.
got a time to somewhat master that craft,
yeah,
and then the next one came. So
Mhm.
when you get that time under your belt, it can make it easier at times.
Mhm.
Some more than other. 3
Yeah.
years, like it just kind of hit me right now because I remember when you started.
Mhm.
You know, I rode with
Mhm.
you for a bit,
Mhm.
and man, 3 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
But you know what?
happens quick. I'm telling you, it
Yeah.
happens
Now
quick.
on that note right there, one of the reasons that we started the show and you've seen some of the other episodes
Mhm.
is because of the things we talk about, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
going to so many houses, it just makes the day go by so fast sometimes, right?
Mhm.
All the things you see and you know the things we want to share. So on that,
Mhm.
Richard, you want to bring
the
old reliable?
Oh no!
because we want to hear some of your stories.
Let's get it. Let's get it over
So-
with. Oh no!
Like we tell everybody, you don't get a prize, but the audience does.
But the audience gets surprised.
Yes.
just
Give it a
go
good
home and
spin.
tell them.
Give it a good spin right there. All
Let's
reliable.
see.
That was a good one.
What is that one?
So you
Hey, don't be changing it.
I'm not changing. Oh, escalations. Escalations, right?
Yeah, but that one is more for.
That one's. I don't.
Have
do
you
a lot
ever-
of-
Okay, so that one's more for supervisors, right?
Yeah. That one's
But-
tough. I've only been on like a couple, and
Well, unless there was a situation that you got into that
Yeah.
warranted, hey, call your supervisor
I
because
just
you
thought of that
Um,
one.
fell
yeah.
through a roof or
I remember I've never I have, and you know he's saying that because he knows the story about that. I
I
didn't
know.
fall through, but my foot went through somebody's ceiling.
All right, start from
Back-
the beginning.
Okay, so true story. All right, this was
you're
oh,
welcome.
this is a minute ago. This is a minute ago. I forgot about this. Loki,
It's only
if I'm
been
being
3
honest.
years.
I did
I went to a call, as we do, right? And the worst part about this call was at the end of the day, right? You just already had a long shift. You've already been to multiple houses through the day. And another gentleman that I work with, he unfortunately was injured, so he was on light duty. And he was tagging along with me just because he needed something to do, really. It's really what it boiled
But it
down
wasn't
to.
Richard.
Was not Richard. No, it was not Richard. No.
No.
So this gentleman and I got to this house. It's a nice house, nice neighborhood. You know, it was one of those things where, especially in these types of homes, you want to be careful because you're like, no, we all know, all of us in the industry know that like some houses you don't care that much. It's just, hey, the job gets done. All right. And there are some houses you want to take a little more care with. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So it was definitely one of those places where you want to take good care of these people because, you know, they're obviously, if it's a bad job, they're probably going to call back to get it redone anyway. You don't want that to happen. So we go into this house, very nice older gentleman that answers the door. Basically, all it was that he was just having some internet issues. And I said, okay, should be an easy fix. Let's go through our normal routine, find out where the issue is, yada, yada, yada. So long story short, we find out that the issue is coming from the attic, right? I need to get into the attic. That way I can fix the lines, this, that, and the third. So the way his attic is set up, there's the attics that have a little pulley, so like
the stairs
brings
drop down,
it brings the ladder down, exactly.
Right.
So I was like, oh, perfect. Like I don't gotta get my own ladder or anything like that. Just pull it down, walk up into the attic. And luckily, even better, it's one of those attics. I'm not a small guy, as we all know, right? I'm 250, 6'4". I'm not a small dude. So there are some attics that I'm not happy about getting into.
You were hoping it was a big attic.
Exactly. And luckily it was. I could stand up in this attic, right? 6'4". I could stand up straight in this attic and we're good.
Build another room up there.
Yeah, like you could have made a whole nother level to the house in this kind of attic. So I was like, oh, this is great. This should be.
And at this time, you're not telling people like, hey, I just started. You don't
you don't. And even like when I did first start, I didn't tell people that I just started because you don't want people to be concerned. They're like, oh, I got a rookie in the house. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to.
Because they usually ask, too.
I carry myself like I'm like, yeah, I've been doing this for 15 years. You know what I mean?
I started this company.
Exactly. So
you got confident once you saw how roomy it was.
Oh, yeah. I was ready to knock this out. I said, oh, it's going to be in and out. We're going to be quick. So basically, what ends up happening is there is a splitter, right? And for those that don't know, a splitter basically makes it so you have multiple lines that run throughout the house, right? But they only had internet, so I only needed one line. So basically, all I had to do, get rid of the splitter, put the two lines together to make it one line. Mm-hmm. We're out of here. I said, oh, this is easy, right? So basically what happened is to make it easier on myself, I was moving everything to the entrance of the attic because initially everything was on the far side,
like their items.
Yeah. So
you had boxes and stuff. Like
exactly. So basically, I was said, okay, instead of having to maneuver every time somebody goes into this attic, instead of them having to maneuver all the way to the back of the attic, let me just move everything to the front where the entrance is.
Well, I was just going to say, right?
Yeah, and I said that way, next time, because my thought process is, what if I'm the next guy? You know what I mean? And I don't want to have to do this again. So just move everything to the front. So as I'm grabbing
honestly, I've never heard anybody doing that, but that's
really
good. Yeah.
See, in my head, I'm thinking because in my head, I literally think I'm like, what if I'm the next guy here and I have to do this again? No. I'm gonna be pissed, right? So I'm like,
because you didn't move it the first time.
Exactly. So now I got to do it the second time. So as I'm doing this, right? So I'm walking. And mind you, again, it's a tall attic, so I'm walking through like just nice, big, long strides. You know what I mean? All confident.
Yeah.
So I grab what I need from the back.
High-stepping motherfucker.
So I'm walking back to where the entrance is, and I remember it clear as day. Like I can still image it in my head how it all happened. As I'm walking, and normally I don't even look down in these situations because they had that
was the problem.
The attic, exactly. So the attic, right? The attic had the plywood, right? So that's why I was able to walk. I didn't have to step on beams or anything. I could just walk across.
So you were even more confident.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, this is perfect. I don't have to.
Oh, you weren't walking on beams.
Yeah, no, I wasn't walking on beams. They had plywood laid out all across this attic.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, oh yeah, I'm confident as heck right now because I don't have to look down or nothing. I can just walk across this attic as if it was like a normal floor. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it was, but something told me, look down. And as I'm taking a step, right, I'm literally in the middle of my stride. I look down and I realize there is now no more plywood where my foot is going.
Like cartoon.
Seriously, it felt like a movie situation where like I took a step and I looked down and I'm like, I'm going through this guy's ceiling. Like I can't stop my momentum quick enough to stop myself from going through this guy's.
So it's slow motion at that.
Oh shit,
dude! That moment felt like a whole hour. You know what I mean? Like of how slow it's happening in my head. I'm like, I'm fired. You know what I mean? I'm like, it's over. I'm done. So like, it's up, right? So. I go through, right? My foot goes through this guy's ceiling. And I'm thinking, dang, dude, like, this really happened. I didn't even immediately take my foot out of the guy's ceiling. I let it sit there for a second. Because I'm like,
grab onto
so what it was is luckily there was a beam right here. So when my foot went through, I just grabbed the beam to like hold myself up. And it's like that moment you like freeze because you're thinking, damn, I'm really like this just happened, you know? So I slowly bring my foot out and I'm like, oh, bro. I don't know if I'm supposed to cut, but like, I was like, fuck. I'm like, this really happened. So remember, right? Backtrack. There's somebody that's with me on this call. But he's not in the attic. He was downstairs. So he was, yeah. So he hears it. And so he pokes his head up through the little ladder thing and he goes, what happened? I said, I just went through this guy's ceiling. And he goes, I was never here, and just leaves. He literally left me. He didn't say anything. Mind you, I'm brand new. I've maybe been on the job like 6 months. I swear to you. He goes, I was never here, and leaves. He just
by the way you did that, I know who it is.
Yeah, I was like, what? I was like,
he got in his van and left.
He went outside, got his van, and went home. And I'm thinking, bro, you did not just leave me here. Because again, I'm still fresh, right? I'm like 6 months on the job at best.
You're fresh to that ceiling.
Dude, I'm thinking, what? I'm like, what do I even do? Like, who do I call? Like, how do I explain this to the customer? Like,
well, you definitely don't call him back.
Bro, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm screwed. Like, I'm fired. Yeah. Like, in my head, I'm literally fired. Like, I just lost my job. So I go downstairs, and I'm looking. I'm thinking, well, I know I stepped this in. Like, where is the hole? And it's in their hallway, right? So when you enter their house, and when you turn left, there's a hallway. And to the left, there's a little closet, like a little coat closet, so to speak. Right?
Oh, you're good.
And so I open, right?
Trying to push it back up?
I'm not going to lie to you. So I open the coat closet. I see where my foot came through. And part of me wanted to just close the door and call it. I'm not going to hold you. Part of me wanted to just close it and call it a day, close everything up, and just leave, right? Like,
sir, you should have someone check out that hole. Someone's going to get hurt.
Part of me wanted to just be like, yo, I don't know what that was, but hey, it is what it is, brother. So,
service is working.
Right? Service is good.
Cheers to that one.
So, I'm an honest guy. So I approached the gentleman. I said, sir, unfortunately, I came through your ceiling. Right? I'm not gonna lie to you, my foot straight went through your thing. Come to find out, the dude I'm speaking with is just renting a room. He's not even the owner of the house, which made it so much worse.
Was the owner there?
So no, the owner wasn't there. The owner's in Vegas, by the way. So he's nowhere near us right now, right? Mm-hmm. And so I call. What made this even funnier is my direct supervisor is on vacation at this time, so I have to call another supervisor and say, "Yo, I just went through this guy's ceiling." You know what I mean? So supervisor,
come out. I know.
I'll never forget this because again, it's the end of it's like. Our day ends about 5 o'clock roughly. Mm-hmm. And this guy, or the supervisor goes, like, are you serious? Because again, it's the end of the day. It's almost 5 o'clock already. And he's like, at the end of the day, like, why are you?
Thought you were joking.
You know what I mean? He's like
somewhere to be.
Seriously, he's like, I want to go home, you know? And I was like, no, I'm very serious. I just went this guy's like, he's like, and I hear him sigh and he goes, okay, I'm on the way. Supervisor comes out. We walk the customer through the situation like, hey, obviously it's on us. We'll go through the proper procedure, get it repaired, all that good stuff. But all that to say, to this day, I still hold resentment against the guy that was with me because he really left me high and dry. And so to this day, we still have beef. All right. We have issues to this day because I will never forget that.
Did you ever talk about it with them afterwards?
No, I just like, you know what? Screw you, dude. Like, you definitely left me in a situation you shouldn't have, especially knowing I was new and you're a veteran. And you know what? Next time you get injured, I'm not gonna feel sorry for you because
was he in your team?
Me. No, he's not. He's not. That's. I was like, dude, I wish you. I wanted to like pop his tires. I'm not gonna. Yeah, I was like,
I know.
Yeah, you know exactly who it is. Dude. I wanted to pop his tires so bad. I was like, dude, screw you, bro. Like he literally. I was like, the fact you looked me in the eyes and said I was never here and left, like didn't say anything else. Literally just walked out the door. I said, wow.
The fact that he said what's going on. I mean, it just seemed like going to the
you're you're looking
Well, he
at
didn't
my
know which
foot.
closet it went through.
Dude, I was so upset. To this day, we have beef. Me and that guy have beef to this day.
Oh, hell
Seriously.
no.
So,
That's a fun
yeah, so
one.
if you see this guy, and you know who you are, right? I'm not going to say no names. You know who you are. If you see this, just know it's on site. It's that's,
Did you ever fall through an attic, Richard?
No, I have not.
Yeah.
lucky bastard.
No, not yet. I mean, I've done some like where the drywall will like start to give away because it's screwed in there, and then you're able to catch yourself and pick it up and you know what I'm saying. But no, I've never gone through an attic. No. How about yourself?
Me, no. Fortunately,
what am I just that bad at my job? Like, what are we talking
Well,
about?
first of all, when you're high stepping through an attic, you got to kind of expect there's going to be a.
Yeah.
I'm picturing like
you gotta know that it's
some
gonna end
North
somewhere.
Korean march down the walkway. You know what I mean? You're just.
Bro,
He was probably out there
what?
dancing.
Dude, you ever seen like a break dancer? I was in there grooving, bro.
Were you doing some TikTok
so
dances?
happy. Yeah, dude. I was gonna make some money in that attic, bro. Yeah,
Like, I'm ready to move in
that
here.
was, bro. And again, it's just weird to think about. That was 2+ years ago. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That was like fresh. So
And that's an escalation, yeah, because you had to call your supervisor and
unfortunately.
escalate that.
yeah, he was not happy because then I had to also go do a drug test. Again, it's 5:00. Most places are either closed or closing. You have to
Yeah.
get me to somewhere where I can do a drug test. And
All the
that's a whole
paperwork for
nother-
him.
Yeah, so it was a nightmare, especially to have to deal with. I mean, dealing with it in general, it's not fun. But at the end of the day, is even worse. Like
Everything closing.
yeah.
It's. I mean, I haven't fallen through a roof, but kind of how this played out in the way that it did. So I'll tell you. I went to go help an individual. I've known this guy for a long time, even before he worked here, and he had some issues. But he called me to come and help him, right? And there's some condos up around the beach area, right? So he calls me. I tell him I'll go over there. He needs a hand moving some furniture. Right? We don't move furniture. Why are you calling me? But yeah, I'm gonna go over there. You know
Unless
what
you're
I'm
in the attic, then you move it.
Mm.
Well, yeah, thank you. Hey, that was very sweet. So I go there, and right off the top, there's this gentleman. He comes down with an attitude. Like I parked right in front because I think, hey, I'm just going to be in and out. I'm going to do this guy a favor. I roll up, I park. Before I get out, he's already pounding on the window. Hey, you can't park here. Move. And I'm like, hey, I'm just like, I can do this. I'm the cable guy. You know what I mean? It's like, no, not today. You're not. You're going to move. Right?
Exactly.
That's why I got
Yeah,
authority,
like-
right? I can think in lights to turn on.
Yeah.
So he's like, no, you got to park. And I'm like, I'm moving, So I got up and he's like, he really comes and confronts me like, hey, you're not going to park here. And I'm like, hey, I'm just here to help somebody. He goes, I know your buddy is in my condo here, but you're not going to park here. All right. So, I parked down the way. I had to walk back. It's on the third story. There's 3 stories, right? So I get up into the condo, and then right away he's like, "Hey, you need to put something on your feet." And I'm thinking,
Oh
man,
yeah,
it's one of these, right?
Oh yeah, we would have
So
issues.
had to go all the way back down to the van. So this is
yeah.
already setting the tone. You're already all pissed
Yeah.
off. I got to get these
Gotta wait
booties
down 3
right.
stories.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
I'm not
right?
gonna lie, honestly, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but every time somebody asks me to put something on my boots, I get mad. I don't know why. It like triggers me for some reason. I'm just like,
Especially if the house
Because
is
you're gonna
already.
be in and out, and you figure it's gonna be a
like,
hassle. You know
come
what I'm saying?
on, man. It's just so much.
Well, so I go and get him and come back, go upstairs, and I'm put him on. And so I get in there, and he's like, "Yeah, he's over there." So I go, it's a master bedroom. This guy he was having a day. So I get in there, and I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" He says, "Hey, I need to move this bedroom set, the outlets behind here, and I got to get to it." And so what it is like this. I don't think they make them too much like this, but it's like a huge, heavy, thick, I guess headboard with like shelving, and it had this big piece of mirror. I mean, this thing was like maybe
can
like a
already
Cal
see
King, but went through the whole from side to side. Big, huge piece of mirror.
Like almost like a built-in.
Yeah,
thing.
just massive, like an
Yeah.
oak, like
Yeah,
old school
I
stuff,
can
but
see
a
it in my head.
big mirror, right? And
Yeah.
it had these 2
Yeah.
lights.
How'd they get it up there?
Well, I don't know, but I wish those guys would have came and moved it, right? So I
That's
so
their
I
Charles
tell
out
him,
there
right?
moving it.
You,
So,
where were you at? You know what I'm saying?
dude.
So I tell him, hey,
personally,
you know, we're not supposed to move this shit. What's going on?
yeah.
You know? He's like, just help me. I need to. And he's getting frustrated. And he's not just pulling on one side. He's like, get the other side, pulling it. And he's like, man, are you gonna help?
Mhm.
And he's pulling it. And the guy's in the back saying, hey, don't break anything. You know, I can hear you're frustrated.
Mhm.
And the guy's like, hey, he's, you know, and I'm like, hey, bro, we're not supposed to.
Yeah, we're
Do
not even
this.
supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, I called you here, just get it. And he pulls on it. Like, I mean, he pulled hard. Well, this thing just went forward.
Yep, I can see it.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Smash.
Yeah.
And like the
Glass
whole
and everything.
glass, everything. And I'm
Yeah.
standing there, and now the dude's like, kind of like, well, what did you do? And I'm like, bro, what do you, I haven't even touched it. You know,
I
like,
haven't done
you pulled
anything.
it, right?
Yeah.
So
So
here,
you were the last one to get there, so
Yeah.
He-
You were like the target. Type
well,
of
no,
thing.
I'm saying this is my buddy. He's
Oh,
telling,
okay.
he's
Yeah,
kind, he's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
well, what did you know, what did you do? And I'm like, I
What?
didn't touch
Oh,
shit,
yeah.
bro.
Oh,
See, it was a squabble. If it was
Oh,
me personally,
yeah.
we're throwing hands. I'm sorry.
So
you
now
should have done what the other guy did.
Yeah.
I didn't see nothing. I'm out of here.
No, check this out. Well, that's what I'm saying. It reminded me, right? So the guy comes in, right, and he's
Yeah.
like, "What the, what happened?"
Yeah.
And I'm just standing there, and he's like, "Well, you seen us trying to move it. It was heavy. I had to get behind here." And he's like, It turns out he was just watching the place for a friend. The friend was out of town, so he's like,
the dude that.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's when I look at the guy I'm supposed to help, and I'm like, I'm out. And I just turn around and I left because this was going to be way bad. Because now you got to call and explain, well, first, why were we moving this, and why, this gentleman's got to explain.
Wait, so did the dude that was watching the house make the call?
No, he was just put there to receive us, or
Oh, so
this
the
code.
actual homeowner made the
call. But he was going to
Okay.
be out of town. So he left
Got
this
you.
guy.
Gotcha.
So he was
Right?
in
Got
charge
you.
of the
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So, but I'm saying glass everywhere. It was a big piece of glass. And I was
Yeah.
just like you.
Oh,
Like,
hell
dude,
no.
did
Hey,
you? I'm
respectfully, I would have done the same.
You know what I'm saying? And I was out of it.
Respectfully, I would have been out. I would have been me personally. Oh yeah,
Well,
it's funny. So
They did teach you something.
yeah, I mean, it
Right?
did. It did. I'm like, yeah. And it's funny because the story you told also made a story pop up in my head that just happened actually rather recently. I was again by the beach, right? I don't know what is with the people on the beach. I don't know what it is. The people by the beach just piss me the F off. But it's not a long story. It basically happened. I had a call by the beach, and y'all know the beach around here. There's not a lot of parking realistically, right? It's because most of the houses are like next to each other, so there's no proper parking realistically.
Just their driveway, but
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you live
But-
there, you're parking in the garage. so that-
Exactly. So, but there's some of those houses where there is like a little bit of gap, like they have like a little wall or some bushes or something. So there's a little bit of a
Mhm.
gap that you can kind of make a spot, so to speak, right?
if they don't say nothing.
Exactly. So my customer was where on his side of the street there was no parking. There was not really anywhere where I could stop and properly park. So I was like, okay, let me just park on the other side of the street. Again, it was where that little wall, like I just said, where that little wall tends to be, where there's somewhat of a gap between. It's kind of like a makeshift gap in between the homes, right?
Mhm.
And so the home on the left didn't have any cars in the driveway, and the home on the right hand side had 2 cars in the driveway. So I purposely parked my van a little basically closer to where there weren't any cars. That way, if the people that were there needed to leave, they had plenty of room to like get out of their driveway, So I was like, okay, I'm being somewhat considerate, right? I may have been like a little bit, but like nothing where you couldn't just turn your vehicle a little bit to get out. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like it
It's
wouldn't
effort.
have been
They coulda got out.
impossible.
They
Like,
coulda-
yes, what could I pulled up a little more, but like not to the point where you had to like hard right turn and then you know what I mean? You didn't have to do all the extra. You could have got out. So I go into my customer's home, figure out what's going on, go back outside to my van so I can get some equipment and this and that. And as I'm opening my doors to my van, a gentleman comes out and is walking toward me and says, "You must not be familiar with these parts of town." Now, if for the people that can see me, y'all know, but for the people that may not be able to see me, I am African American. Where I'm from, that's low key a threat. Like, you know what I mean? Where I come from, the where I grew up, like that's kind of a crazy thing to say to somebody. You know what I mean? Like, I'm immediately on the defensive now at this point in time. I'm like, my fists are already balled up. Like, I'm ready. Like, this is you just threatened me, bro. So I turn around and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what are we on, bro? So I turn around. I said, excuse me? And he goes, you must not be familiar with this area. And I said, in what regard? Because again, in my head, bro, I'm like, are you like, let's do it, bro. Like, if we gotta squabble, we're gonna squabble.
There's etiquette here.
So he said, this is not a parking spot. And I said, I verbatim, because again, I'm pissed off at this point, because again, you came at me crazy off rip. So I said, who dictates that? And he goes, well, I do. I said, well, you don't own the street, so I can park wherever I please. And I'm working right now, so I'm going to park here so I can do my work. You know what I mean? And he goes, well, no, up there is a parking. And he points a little further down the street. You can park up there, but you can't park here. And I said, okay, well, are you going to call the police so they can move me? And he goes, well, what if there's an emergency? I said, sir, is there an emergency? And he goes, no, but there could be. I said, well, if there's an emergency, you come get me. I'll move my van. I'm right here across the street. Because again, and normally I don't talk to people like that, but you came out already on some crazy stuff. You know what I mean? So I'm sitting here already, you've already put me in a bad situation from the get-go. Now, if you had came out and said, hey, do you mind moving your vehicle? Or can you pull up a little further? Or you know what I mean? I would, sir, I got you, sir. You know what I mean? All polite would have been cool, but you came out on some, you don't know these parts. Like, and it's an older white, and I think what made it worse is it's an older white gentleman, right? So I'm like, come on, bro. Like, you must not have understood how that sounded out of your mouth. You know what? Walking up to a black dude saying, you must not be familiar with these parts. Like, come on, dog. Like,
I'm there for my pickleball.
Crazy, yeah. So sure enough, bro, I didn't move my van. I promise you, I didn't. I stood right there. I went back into my customer's house.
Was this your customer?
No, that was the worst part. Like you didn't have to bother me. Like, you came out on some crazy stuff, and I said, all right, cool. And I said, well, I straight told him, I said, if there's an emergency, I'm at such and such building, you can come get me. I will gladly move my van. Or if you want to call the police, and we can have a discussion with the police about where I'm allowed to park. Like, and it's not, and mind you, it's not a red zone. It's not a loading zone. It's not handicap. It's just the street. You know what I mean? So
it's not red.
Yeah,
but you were parked on the right side with your right.
And I had my lights on and everything. Had my cones. I did the whole to make it blatantly apparent that I'm working. It's not that I was parking there for fun or anything like that. Yeah. I was on a break.
It's not like you were gonna go to the beach.
Exactly. Like, I'm working, dude. And so it was just crazy. And so when you said the guy kind of came at you a little crazy, that's what triggered that in my head. I'm like, you could have easily just been like, hey, do you mind moving your van? And I would have said, you know what? I don't. And I would have moved. You know what I mean? Like, if you would have just came at me like a human being, you know what I mean? But you coming out on you're not familiar. I'm like, yeah, nah, we're not going to do it. I'm not one of them people that's going to roll over. You know what I mean? That's not going to happen. Exactly. So, and sure enough, I stayed parked there until I was there about an hour. I was like, I'm going to be parked there too. Yeah, 100% didn't have to be. I could have been in and out, but I was like, I'm gonna unscrew this screw very slowly. I'm gonna be very patient with everything.
I'm gonna turn on my van.
I was solving problems that had nothing to do with me. I'm purposely taking a long time.
Once you get in the truck or your van, it's like, let me look at my emails.
Where's the nearest food spot that I can find on my phone? Yeah,
see what my social security payout will be in.
Dude, I was there way longer than that. Just as a big middle finger, I'm like, screw you.
And you notice we get that a lot too in being in the industry, because there's some areas where there's no parking and we just gotta park wherever.
Gotta make it work.
And there's some Karens that come out and then just start going crazy.
But like I was saying though, if you could just come out and say, hey, do you just mind pulling up a little further? Do you mind just?
But when was the last time Karen came out speaking nice?
I mean, it's been proven time and time again that there are still people that feel privileged. They just have this way about them.
Absolutely.
And the thing is it's all that until you're there for their house. Then you can park wherever you want. You know, it's like, man, I'm just trying to do my job. And,
when it's convenient for them.
But sometimes they even try to defend the neighbor's house. And the
it's
neighbor's
not-
like,
it's not
they're
fair.
working at my house. I don't care
Yeah,
what
like,
they
I
do.
don't care where you park. Like, is my cable gonna get fixed? You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And we see all walk of lives.
All the time. Yeah, I've done run
Everything.
into. I don't know if I ever told you guys about the Nazi flag situation.
No,
Did I
but
ever-
go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I didn't tell you.
I think,
Did I tell you about the Nazi flag?
well, there's one or two homes that a lot of us have been to that
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
there's
there's
these
The audience wants to hear it.
individuals.
So
Oh
go
man.
ahead.
Oh man. And you know what's funny about this story is
I
the
mentioned one
individual
before,
that left me, that one that in the previous story, was also with me in this
So you
situation,
didn't learn the
which
first
is
time, right?
Crazy.
And he left you too?
So no, this one was funny. This one was funny.
But you're both
because-
in the same situation.
Exactly. Yes, he is of darker skin, right? He's not white. I'm sorry. Hey, I'm sorry, audience. If you're of Caucasian, you know what I mean. I don't mean to offend, but so this is a home again, a bigger home. It's a nicer home, right? And they're just having various issues of all. I mean, it was like,
Is this a gentleman that has it
Yeah.
out in the driveway, big, tall?
no,
flag?
no. That's what made it worse. Is because it was kind of not necessarily hidden, but it was like I was like already nice to you. We had already made conversation, and then
Mhm.
boom, like I'm in your home and I see this. You know what I mean? So
Was it in the living room on the wall?
no, it was so it's a bigger home, right?
Uh-huh.
And you have to, I mean, big to the point where I have to drive down a driveway to
Oh,
get
okay.
to your home. Okay.
Yeah, big.
So yeah, it's a bigger home, and so we get there, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm having this issue." I'm like, "Okay, ain't no problem. Like,
Yeah.
we gonna solve it today." You know what I mean? And so I said, you know, as I do with all my customers, I say, "Okay, take me to where the problem is. That way, I can see if I can visually see what you're experiencing. Because for me, I don't know about you guys." A lot of the times, if I can visually see what you're experiencing, so if I can like visually verify, it also kind of makes it easier for me to deduce what potentially is wrong. You know
Right,
what
it's
I
easier
mean?
to troubleshoot, yeah.
Exactly. So I said, take me to where you're having these issues. So he took me to the first spot.
Take me to the scene of the crime.
Exactly. So he took me to the first spot. Everything was fine. And then he takes me to, so again, it's a larger home. So when you entered his home, and it's crazy how vivid I remember these, right? So you
Good.
enter his home, and if you make a right, there's a little hallway, and it leads to a spiral case that leads into another upper section of the home, okay?
Mhm.
So as you come up this spiral staircase, there's another very short hallway, and to the left, or sorry, yeah, no, I was correct. To the left is the room we were going to go into, and to the right is a bathroom. But we're turning left, so as soon as you turn left, it's kind of like a study almost, you know what I mean? But it's again, it's a larger home. So imagine a big room, lots of bookshelves, displays on the wall. There's even a bar in the back right corner of this room. Like it's a large set, but you can tell it was set up to be like a study / lounge room kind of feel to it. Okay. Now, I don't know about you guys. Most of the time though, when I enter a room, I immediately scan the room just to see what's around me because I'm kind of skeptical about people in general, and I'm like,
I think we do that too. Just like almost like little detectives. aren't we?
yeah, like what's around me? What do I need to be looking out for? Like, you know, just to be aware of my surroundings.
Tells
in
you a
this
story
person.
too about the individual.
Exactly. So again, I still remember this so vividly, right? I'm scanning the room, and if I'm looking left to right, so when I look left, there's a big TV with a couch, and again, bookshelves. You start panning right. There's a bar in the back right corner. Okay, again, some more bookshelves, some displays, and when you look to the right of this room, big old Nazi flag. Boom.
I know the man.
And I was like,
You've been there too?
I just had this conversation with my wife last night. I'm like,
I said, and I'm dumbfounded. I'm thinking,
What am I doing here?
what? I'm thinking, wait, whoa. You know, like you don't believe it at first. I'm like,
but you didn't know that when you talked to him, right?
yeah. When you're
yeah.
talking to him, it's not even like you know what I mean, all crazy. It's just
Yeah.
like I'm sitting there looking at it, and the other guy I was with, the other gentleman I was with, he's downstairs, so he hasn't come upstairs yet. Mind you, I have not.
Texting him.
I haven't even technically entered the room. You know, I may be like one step inside of the room. I haven't even really walked in.
So it's almost like you're gonna step, but you want to turn around.
And I'm just like, and I'm looking, and I mean, my eyes are like, what? And the customer is like, just, well, this is happening. All that's getting tuned out right now. I don't hear nothing you're saying.
I'm looking for windows.
Yeah, I'm
sliding
thinking,
doors.
what's the quickest exit?
Like blah 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 blah.
Yeah, I'm like, what? And so as
yeah, shut up, sir.
Exactly, that's what it felt. I was like, dude, you need to stop talking. Like, stop speaking
that on eBay?
right now, dude. And so I'll never forget, because the guy I was with is now coming up the stairs as I'm like staring at it, and he goes, why are you just standing here? Like, why have you not, you know what I mean? Like, why are you not actively going inside the room? And I tap on him and I point to the right, and he goes, oh. You know, he's just like, I was like, that's why I have not, entered said room.
Did he then tell you,
I'm out?
I wasn't here. I'm leaving.
No.
This fun.
He stuck around for this one, ironically enough.
Okay.
But no, so what ended up happening
You know who you are.
the customer goes, I think it finally clicked in his head that we're both now like, sir, you know what I mean? And he goes, well, no, like, that doesn't mean anything. Like, I collect memorabilia, like, blah, blah, this. You know what I mean? Like, gives you the whole, like,
we all collect memorabilia.
This and that. Yeah. And I literally said to him, I said, well, it's one thing to collect memorabilia, right? Mm-hmm. But, like, why is this, like, displayed? You know what I mean?
Real proudly,
like,
right?
It'd be different if you had to, like, fold it up in a case and it was, like,
you know what I mean?
I had to show it to you.
Exactly. Like, oh, I'm gonna put it up. This is an authentic. I mean, it still doesn't really make it better, but you know what I mean? But like to a degree it does. You know what I mean? But like, you have it out and displayed as if this is like something you're proud about. You know what I mean?
It's like if you have a jersey from a player
from a team
from back in the
days.
It's
It's like me having my Kobe signed jersey. Like, but this is like, you're proud of this hanging here. And I was like, you do realize you have 2 minorities in your house right now, bro. And he's like, no, I swear to you, it's not like this, blah, blah. And I said, you know what? I'm personally just uncomfortable with this situation. Like, you may not be, but like, I'm just not willing to take any chances personally. Yeah. Right. So called my supervisor. I explained to him the situation. He comes out and he goes to the room, and I was outside at this point. I was like, I'm going to wait in my truck. Well, you go figure out the situation. If I absolutely have to go back in, I will, but like, not unless I have somebody else there to like basically watch my back. You know what I mean? I just don't feel comfortable.
You did have, what's his name?
We don't talk about him. We don't have to go.
It's like we don't talk about Bruno.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't even. I don't count. He already let me down once. I wasn't gonna risk it because let something pop off. He was just gonna run out the door. I wasn't here. I was. Yeah, he was out. So the supervisor comes and we ended up doing the job. But I said, yeah, I was like, I'm not doing it unless I have somebody else here. Like I need. Unfortunately, a white man. You know what I mean? to be, because I don't want to
a mediator.
And I mean, realistically, right? Like, and no offense to that customer, realistically, probably nothing was going to happen, right? But I mean, unfortunately, you just don't know. Like you just don't know. And I care too much about my life to even put myself in a situation where if I even have that risk of not making it home that night, I just would rather not. You know what I mean?
And it's almost kind of like when you go and open an attic and it's full of rat feces and rat infestation. It's the same thing. You want to close it and just leave.
I'm just not. Yeah.
It's for your health.
Yeah.
For your safety.
I'm going home. I want to go home tonight. You know what I mean? I want to make it back to my loved ones. So unfortunately, if that means somebody got to come out to watch my back while I finish this, then so be it. But,
and see, people might deem that as like, what's the big deal? But unless you're in that situation, you're in somebody's home, domicile, whatever, in the side of a mountain, down the driveway, the whole deal. You just feel like pretty far into the woods.
Right? It's just one of those things because like, okay, right? And I'm sure people are going to say, well, he wasn't going to do anything. But I'm like, okay, let's just say he did. Right? Let's say I did get put in a situation where I was in danger. I'm so far out in the middle of nowhere.
it's not like somebody can be there in 2-3 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes, 10 minutes even, 15 minutes. It took that supervisor 30 minutes to get
up
from where
hill.
he was to up that hill to down that.
driveway.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like, do you know what can happen in 30 minutes?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I could not be breathing in 30 minutes. You know what I mean?
Less
So
than that,
like,
yeah.
it's just one of those, again, was something going to happen? Probability? Probably not, right? But if I can just have that safety net of, hey, can you just be here? That way I can do what I need to do, and then we can all leave happy. And
And
you know
not
what
that
I mean?
guy, because he's halfway out the
Right,
door.
yeah, I'm like, the other guy was
Exactly.
already like stepping out the door. Like
He was in
his
his van like
van
this.
was like, the key was already in the ignition. You know what I mean? But like,
He locked his door.
exactly. Like, I would just rather play it safe. You know what I mean? Like, I would prefer to go home tonight. And
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not one of those things where it doesn't happen often. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying
It
like,
doesn't.
oh, it's like every other call. I gotta, you know what I mean? But like, there are some where you're just like, you know what? I've even had called guys where I'm like, yo, we're just gonna chat on the phone while I'm, because I just like, these people give me like a weird vibe.
Yeah.
And like, if I do get stabbed to death, at least somebody will hear it. You know what I mean? Like, awesome. Like, I've been in like tight attic spaces where I'll call somebody on my personal phone and just be like, hey, just in case I suffocate to death, like, you know what I mean? Like, just so somebody's aware that I'm
I
dying.
pass out because it's like 200 degrees. up
Yeah,
here.
like, at least somebody's aware I'm dying, bro.
No.
It doesn't happen often, but it's just
Yeah.
certain situations you're like, bro, I would prefer to go home tonight. You know what I mean?
No,
would prefer
I
to
totally
go.
get it because in one of the other episodes I mentioned, right, where I went into somebody that in a house where that's why I asked if they had it on the wall as you walk in.
Mhm.
So this one, yeah, you walk in and they have different flags, not just one
Mm,
of
mm,
Nazis. And one of the guys just got out of jail, had tattoos and everything, and
mhm,
was
mhm.
like, "Who the fuck is this?"
Yeah.
And then the owner of the house was like, no, he's cool. And then the wife and everybody's like, no, don't worry. He's just here for the...
Or at least wait till he
For the
fixes the
internet.
problem.
Yeah. At least wait till our internet's back.
Yeah, so then he left and these people were cool. So I figured, okay, I'll fix it. But no, it doesn't happen all the time, but you do run into those houses where you're like, oh, I'm out of here.
Yeah, I just
You
don't
feel the
want
little
to.
tingle in the back
Yeah,
of the
like
neck.
it's just like certain areas you get to, you're just like, man, I don't. And again, chances of it happening probably slim, but you hear so many horror stories at the same time where you're just like, oh,
And you
I
know,
just don't wanna risk it.
there's some other ones too where even if you don't see things like flags or things like that or tattoos, you kind of know. So
Oh, yeah.
You can feel it.
let me
Oh,
tell you a story.
yeah.
One time, I went to this area. Houses are a little nicer. So they're people that are well off. It was a big house too. I walked in. They had issues with their TV service and the internet too. So I walk in. I have my tools, and the guy didn't ask me to put any booties on. He lived alone. He was divorced. He was, acting really cool. So I'm like, all right, cool. We're talking. I'm asking him what's going on. He's telling me, just the routine. And then, your standard living room, you have the TV on a night or a TV stand. And then in the back, you kind of have to wiggle your way to the back to where the cables are.
Facts.
And you have to run your test with your meter and whatnot, right? So he actually moved everything forward.
Okay.
And I was able to get in the back, and I was, looking at some of the wires and everything. He had a surround sound. So I'm running my test, and as I walk back out, I put my tools down. He had carpet on the section of the living room, but not on the walkway.
Okay.
So I put my tools on the walkway that had, I think it was wood, and I walked back over there. I was running my test with my meter. As I'm walking back, he's going through my toolbox.
Oh, damn.
Or my bag, my tool bag.
Yeah.
And I'm just standing there like dumbfounded, like, is this for real?
Yeah.
And he's just kind of looking and looking. And I'm just standing there looking at him. And I guess when he was satisfied, he just stood up and like nothing happened.
There's some bullshit
Like-
tools in here. I don't want to.
He was like, oh, yeah. So, so what's going on with the TV? And I'm like, oh, well, I just got to go outside and fix some issues, and then I'll come right back. So I went outside, did some more work.
Did you take your tools with you?
Yeah,
I did, but he had already searched everything. So then I took everything. I went outside, did some work, came back in, went back to behind the TV, did some more, to double check the signal to make sure everything was okay. But I had my tool bag with me. And then again, I brought it back over here. And as I was going with the remote, checking everything, making sure it was okay, he was standing next to me. My tool bag was next to me. He went through it again. And I'm just standing there like, we're all seeing this, right?
Yeah, like we're all on the same page.
Why did you tell him to pass you? Hey, can you pass me that wrench?
Right?
I
was
almost
like, hey,
did.
the screwdriver right there.
I almost did, but I was already done with the work. I was just with the remote. So
yeah.
Was he searching like maybe you stole something, or was he?
That's what I got. That's what I got at the end. Like what did he have in that entertainment area where the TV was?
Especially something that you could have put in your
pocket.
You know what I mean? Like,
but I didn't see anything that was small that I could have put in my tool bag. And my tool bag wasn't that big. It was like maybe 10 inches by like 8 inches.
Yeah, I remember your
so
bag.
it wasn't too big.
Right. You would like see it too, like especially with a lot of our bags / like I know you use like a specialized thing, but like most of our stuff, like you would see if we put something in there like pretty much immediately. You know what I mean? Like,
and he was staring at me the whole time.
So I'm just like,
yeah,
you would know. Like, why do you know what I mean? Like, it's very obvious.
I thought it was just super weird, but like I'm telling you, sometimes I don't know if he was just racist or he just didn't trust me or what it was, but sometimes you don't physically see flags or tattoos or memorabilia. But then you actually,
and you get some people like that. Then you're making me think of stories that I almost low-key forgot about. Like, I had one dude, he opened my van door, like straight up. This was like, I kid you not, I was maybe 2 weeks fresh off of like trainings. Like this was like my second week, like by myself. You know what I mean? Like this is like, I'm fresh. You know what I mean? Like I'm newborn. Like there's still some, like the umbilical cord just got cut type of deal. You know what I mean? And you just triggered it's one of those customers where like, if I got fired, I'm going back to your house and like egging it. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, we have eternal beef now. You know what I mean? So I was fresh. This had to be 2 weeks off of training and stuff like that. And I'll never forget this. I was installing cable internet for this customer, and I'll never forget. And it was one of the biggest lessons to date that I ever had, because essentially the situation was in their living room, that's where they wanted their internet. And I said, cool, right? So the standards of our company, as you guys know, is we drill from the inside of the home to the out. That way you don't puncture anything, you don't hit anything on the other side, you know exactly where everything's gonna be at, type of thing, right? So I marked it out, I measured how everything was. I was ready to go to drill this hole, right? And just as I'm about to drill it, the homeowner, right, the gentleman goes, well, wait, no, before you do that, let me show you something. So on the outside, they had this little metal panel that if you unscrewed, it showed you basically the inside of the wall. And he's like, well, since this is already here, can't you just drill it here, right? That way you're not making a new hole.
On the outside.
Now, again, so I'm like, which as a rookie, as very fresh, it made sense in theory, right? In theory, what he was saying made sense, right? But again, I'm forgetting that technically I'm the professional here. You know what I mean? Does that but you guys get what I'm saying, right? Like, like what don't get me wrong, what he's saying made sense. But like I'm so fresh that I'm not thinking, dude, you're trained to know how to do this properly. Like, don't take what he's saying at face value. You know what I mean? Yep. So I was just so gung-ho that, the customer knows what he wants. Let me just do it like that. You see what I'm saying? Like, you guys, I know you guys are, for the people at home, y'all may not understand, but like in this situation, when the customer knows what they want, you're happy because you're like, I don't have to do guesswork with you. I don't have to question you through this. Like, if you know how you already want it, let me go ahead and as long as it lines up with our parameters, let me get this knocked out. But again, as a rookie, when he was so sure of what he wanted, all my training kind of went out the window because I was just happy that he knew what. Like I didn't have to ask questions.
Yeah.
I didn't have to mark. Oh, you knew where you wanted it. Cool. Let me do this. Okay. So my happy ass grabs my drill, punctures that hole, and
From the outside.
from the outside in, right? So what I'm not realizing,
Without measuring.
no, I didn't measure it. He was like, "Yeah, if you just do it in the top left corner of this little boom," and so my happy ass did it, bro. And again, looking back on it, I'm like, "You effing idiot, dude! Like you knew better. You 100%."
Because you were like, oh, Mika Sushi.
Yeah,
Oh, man,
I'm
I
like, oh, there's a Chipotle around the corner for lunch. Like, I'm happy as hell, bro. So true story. So I puncture that hole. I'll never forget this. What I fail to realize is that we have those, those houses that are kind of offset. So the outside of the home flat is not the same as the inside of the home flat, right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit raised.
Mhm.
So when I drill that hole is no longer in the wall. It's in the little, what do you call it? The little, like the bottom, how it has like the little trimming, like the trim.
Baseboard?
The baseboard.
Yeah.
I come through the baseboard
Nice.
of the home. So when
On
I come
the lower part of the baseboard?
dude, it was like
By
right
the
in the
floor?
middle of the baseboard. Like,
And it makes it worse when it just starts to push it away, just
Bruh,
ripping away from
dude.
the wall on top of making the
oh,
wall.
when I tell you, when I went inside and looked at that, the way my heart sank, bro. Because again, I'm fresh. I'm a guppy. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, come on. And so, of course, the guy comes out and he goes, that's not where I told you. I'm like,
Of course not.
oh.
Of course
I'm
not.
like, that's literally exactly where you told me to drill it. Like, what are we talking about? I'm
Like, let's come outside and look at what you told me to do.
And he goes, you know what? Like, can you just drill the other one? Because I obviously don't want it in the middle of the effing baseboard. So he's like, can you
That
drill
looks pretty nice to me, sir.
He's like, can you drill the other one? And I'm like, no, I gotta drill a second hole in this guy's house, bro. So I'm like, all right, bro. So I'm
You could
like,
have just drilled a hole on top of
and
that.
then right, and then so my dumbass still drills the other hole, bro. Oh man. So I drill the other hole, right? I get everything hooked up. He's like, it's okay. I'm like, he was like, I'm a carpenter, blah, 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 this and that, the third. I'll fix it. No worries. You're good. My dumbass believes him. So I don't report it to a supervisor or anything. I'm like, oh, homie said he's gonna handle it. What I need to report it for? Like,
Someone is like,
you know what I
hey,
mean?
Charles.
So get this. So and the reason, sorry, you were telling the story about how the gentleman went through your stuff. The reason I'm bringing up this story is because I was going back and forth from my truck a lot. Now this is before the time that nowadays every time I leave my truck I lock it. But I was in a nicer neighborhood, so I'm like, oh, I don't need to like lock my truck for anything. But I would, obviously close the doors and stuff. So I was going back and I wasn't utilizing my time efficiently, so I was going back and forth from my truck a lot, right? But every time I knew I would close the door, right? Common sense, right? So I remember, and I'll never forget this, and I never brought it up to like any supervisor or anything because I felt like I couldn't prove it per se, you know what I mean? So I'm like, who's gonna believe me, But I'll never forget, I went back to, I was finishing getting there, everything ready, when I was walking back to my truck, and I'll never forget this. I was walking back to my truck and the doors were open. And I was like, well, like I didn't leave my door open for anything, And sure enough, I saw the customer walking back through his front door and close the door behind him. And I'm like,
so he just left the door open on
that's
purpose.
weird. You know what I mean? Like, were you going through my truck or something? So like, and I went and I looked and all my tools and everything was still there. But I'm like, I know for a fact I shut my door. And it's kind of weird that as I'm coming around the corner, you're like rushing through your front door and closing your door. Like, that's a little odd. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that don't really but again, I'm like, I can't really prove it. So like if I say something, it kind of causes a whole bigger thing. And again, in my head, I thought the customer was cooler. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna let it slide. I obviously, and plus I had already effed up. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I don't want to make it a bigger, you know what I mean? A bigger
just slide on out.
situation. I'm like, I'm gonna just, So
Just
and
look
it's
for another tool.
oh
if we
my
took
god.
it.
So get this. So I finished.
Probably
I-
took your hammer. So you
right,
can fix the
bro.
Now we're even.
I'll never forget this because I finished that job, get everything up and running. Everything's cool, right?
Mhm.
I leave. I go to my lunch. Oddly enough, this is not a joke. That Chipotle I mentioned earlier is where I went for lunch. This is not a true story. True story. I went to that Chipotle for lunch. Get Chipotle, go, and I kid you not. And the reason I don't forget this is because my next job after lunch was only a couple streets over from the house I was just at that I effed up on. Right. As I'm pulling up to this house, supervisor calls me. Goes, hey, question for you. You were, I'm like, okay. And he goes, you were just at such and such address. I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, but I'm thinking he doesn't know. So I'm like, I play cool. Like, maybe he's just checking up. Cause again, I'm fresh.
Maybe
so I'm thinking,
else.
yeah, maybe he's just checking
I did
up.
a sweet job. Yeah,
You know,
right.
Cause yeah, I'm like, maybe he's just like, cause I did take a little bit longer. So maybe he's just checking up on me. Maybe it's just, things are cool, right? It's cool. Don't say nothing. He goes, so the customer called. I was like, oh, okay. Why would they call?
I did
He
a great
goes-
job, right?
He goes, I was like, oh yeah. I was like, did I get praise or something? Like, I was like, oh, maybe they wrote me like a special letter or something.
Oh, yeah,
I'm stupid at this one. I'm dumb, right? And so he goes, so few things. And I was like, oh, this is not gonna be good. He's like, so did you happen to drill a hole through their baseboard? And I was like, oh. And I'm like,
wow.
yeah, I did. And he goes, well, why didn't you report it? And I was like, well, the guy said he was going to take care of it. Like, you
He's
know,
a
like,
carpenter.
you know what I mean? I was like, it was a whole thing. I know I should have, but like, again, unfortunately, taking the customer at face value, what they said, like, I thought it was cool. Like, I know I should have, like, totally my bad. You know what I mean? Like, I honestly thought he was going to take care of it, like my fault. He goes, well, no, unfortunately, they called back and they want to escalate it to, you know, damage claim, blah, blah, blah. He said, but that's not it. And I was like, what do you mean that's not it? That's the only thing
Yeah,
that
what else you
happened.
do?
He's like, well, apparently they're saying that they asked you to wear boot covers and that you didn't and made a mess all over their floor with your boots. I was like, huh? I was like, supervisor, like, you know me. I work with integrity. Like, if they asked me to put boot covers on, how stupid does that sound for me to not put boot covers on and me still enter your house? Like, can we just people listening right now, can we just like hear what I'm saying right now? Because that way it makes sense. If you had somebody coming into your home and you said, hey, can you wear boot covers that way you don't mess up my floor? And I look at you and I said no, and you still let me into your house. Like, can we just listen to how that sounds for a second, right? Like, I'm not crazy and thinking like that. Like, that doesn't even add up. Like, why would, if I asked you to put boot covers on and I told you no, why would I still let you in my house?
No, and then people that do ask, they always remind you, like, hey,
Yeah,
Can I step
like,
over here?
yeah,
Right.
like that don't even sound like the math don't. 2 + 2 is 4. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean?
You sure?
So he was like, yeah, he's saying that or his wife is saying that she asked you specifically to wear boot covers and that you did not, and that you walked all over the floor and made a mess, and that you left behind a whole bunch of scraps that they had to clean up and this and that. They do, I mean, crazy. Now, don't get me wrong. I owned up to it. I'm like, yes, did I drill the bad hole? Absolutely. But all that other stuff is crazy. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, I work with integrity, you know, and especially when I was fresh, I'm like, I felt like every job, I mean, even now, every job has to be perfect, but you know what I mean? But like,
Yeah.
I took even extra care, you know, to make sure that like it was as clean as possible. I mean, nowadays, unfortunately, there might be furniture that I might not move back into place. You know what I mean? I leave that to the customer, but like, I'm still going to clean up after myself. You know, I'm going to pick up my scraps. I'm going to
Yeah.
vacuum up the dust. Like, I'm going to still make it at least look good. You know what I mean? But at that stage where I'm 2 weeks into the job, bro, I'm going to make sure that as best as I can, you know, that everything, like, I'm leaving without a trace. You know what I mean?
You're like, I'll drill holes all over the
Yeah,
house.
like,
but
you
I won't
know
leave
what
it
I
dirty
mean,
when
bro?
I'm picking
Like,
up.
hey, facts, bro. I'm saying, but nah. So to make a long story short, man, basically the supervisor went out there because obviously it got escalated since we were on the topic of escalations. The supervisor went out there and he was like, okay, like let me see the hole, and they showed him the hole, and he was like, okay, like, we can patch that up. We'll get that done. He's like,
Yeah.
well, do you mind showing me, like, you said he left a bunch of like footprints and this and that. Like, can you show me where so we can take pictures? And they were like, the customers basically said, oh, well, we cleaned it up already. He's like, well, how can I further do the claim if you've
cleaned it up.
yeah.
You know, he's like, okay, well, you said you had like all the scraps and everything like that. Like, can you show me the scraps? That way I can, again, take pictures so I can, you know, it's not, oh, we cleaned it up already. And he was like, okay, well, if that's the case, like, they're in the trash. Can you just open up the trash can so I can
take a picture?
Oh, we already took out the trash.
So it's just like an attempt to
Yeah.
get
So
some
you
credit.
were
or
like,
something.
yeah. So you were
He's
just
just trying to look to get you into
yeah.
trouble,
So he was like, no, don't get me wrong. Yes, he screwed up. Should he have not drilled that hole? 100%. But like, don't make up a whole bunch of other.
Now, did the
crazy
supervisor have
lies.
to set it up so they can fix the hole, or did
So
the guy
luckily the supervisor is he's handy, you know. So he was able to do it himself, you know, and patch it up. And so we did. He even sent me pictures later just so I could see how they patched
Just
it
rub
up
it in
and
your
everything.
face.
Kind of a little bit. It kind of felt like I was like, okay, I get it. I messed
don't
up.
do this anymore?
You know
right?
what I mean? It was like just like a constant reminder, like, hey, don't do this thing that you just did, you know. But
Oh, and if you happen to do it again, it's like, come on, it gets you out of the office.
exactly. Yeah, because we know them supervisors don't like that office that much. But no, and it was, and he called me back. He was like, look, he's like, just to update you, you know, obviously the customer had lied about all the other extra details. I just want you to know you're in the clear for that. But like, hey, next time, just remember. And he told me this verbatim, and this is why it was like one of the biggest life, like not life lessons, but like work lessons. You know what I mean? Like.
Well, a little bit
At
of
the,
both.
yeah, a little
Yeah,
bit of both.
right.
But he was like, hey, I know you're new, but don't forget you're the professional. At the end of the day, we sent you to training for a reason. We taught you all these things for a reason. Yes, the customer may know what they want, but it may not be how we do things or how it needs to be done.
So if you're gonna
So
drill through that
just-
baseboard,
Yeah.
clean up your mess. afterwards.
Exactly.
Well, and then
And
sometimes you even get you've seen it too, Richard, where you go to a house and it's somebody that's an engineer in radio frequency, and they know everything.
My favorite.
They rewired their own house. They went to Radio Shack or wherever they bought the
My
cable from,
favorite,
rewired
bro.
everything, and they're like,
My
I'm an engineer.
favorite,
I know exactly what I'm doing. And you're like,
They helped design the amplifier.
I'm going to have to rewire your whole house because you got to go return that degree you got.
My
Did you get the cable when you got the degree?
favorite, bruh. My favorite, bro. I
You got all
swear
the
to
cable
you,
and
bruh.
freaking
Yeah, them
special
people,
freaking
them
Radio
people.
Shack.
Oh, I'm an engineer. Oh, I did it. That's nice.
You know what
why,
I'm talking about?
if you were so good at this, why did you call me? You know what I mean? Like, why am I here? If
That's
you
the
were
first
so
thought
good,
usually
bro?
in my
That's
head
exactly-
when they're going off and they're telling you and they're showing you all these degrees and you're like, well, then why am I here?
Like, what are you?
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't. Okay,
Like, okay, bye. You can fix it yourself.
Oh
Right.
my god, those are my favorite, bro. Those are very funny.
Let's get the wheel one last time. And
Oh, one
change
more.
the
All right,
subject.
bet. All right. So we did escalations, right? All right.
Yeah.
So
We'll get
no-
something more fun.
So, yeah, no more.
Escalations was
no
too
more-
serious. Right?
No more escalation. If I land on escalation, I'm gonna laugh.
What is that?
It landed on toys, technically.
Oh, nice.
And that can mean a lot of things, all right? And I
It
thought
is
this was,
toys.
I thought this was a
Toys,
PG,
everybody.
a PG friendly, you know, this is a family podcast, you know? Because
Well-
all my toy stories are not PG friendly.
It's any type of toy. Well, the other one that it almost
Family.
landed on was pets.
Oh, dude, I almost kicked a customer's dog one time. True story. You know, it's always
what did
okay,
the dog do to you?
It's always the small dogs. You know what I mean? I've never had the big dogs. I've never had an issue with actually. Like the big dogs, I'm usually like they're like cool. It's always the small fucking like the chihuahuas and all that. That's it. I was working at a house, and I already knew the dog was gonna be a pain in the ass because it was like as soon as I hit the door. You know, it's one of those ones that just doesn't stop no matter what you do.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Most dogs are like they'll bark initially, but then once they realize like, okay, they're not like it's just whatever. You know, they'll
when
stop.
when the owner's there, they're kind of
Yeah,
calm down.
it's cool, but like there was, dude, I genuinely almost kicked her dog across the house. I was like this, like so close. But basically, what happened is she was just getting internet, was installing everything. Everything was going cool, and at first she was holding the dog because the dog was kind of trying to get at me, right? And I wasn't, not that I was scared, but I was like, "Don't get your dog hurt, lady." Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not, you know.
was it a little
You know,
chihuahua?
like, it was like a little, you know, those, like little purse dogs. It wasn't like a chihuahua, but like
the little hairy
the
ones?
hairy ones.
Pomeranian?
Yeah, like it was whatever. So I said, okay, whatever. So basically, long story short, I was kind of going back and forth again. I was a little fresher, so
I hadn't maximized, as I like to say, maximized how much time I spend, going back and forth from my truck. So I had to make a couple trips. And on one of the trips, I'm walking toward the door, and I hear it all of a sudden. I hear the rah, 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 and they have wood floors, so I hear the little feet like scurrying toward me, and I'm like, okay, dog, like go away, whatever. And I'm walking to the door, and I'm almost to the door, and all of a sudden I feel on my pant leg like it's like tugging on my pant leg, and I turn around and I'm looking down. I'm like, what the, like, what are you? And it's like trying to like bite me. It's like actively trying to get at me, and it's like biting at my boot and everything. And I genuinely had a moment, like there was a moment in my head where I wanted to just like full on like I don't even, a good soccer player, whoever. Like I wanted to like full on
Messi?
like Messi this dog across the house, like. And I don't know if that makes me a psychopath, you know what I mean? But like it was like a moment where I just wanted to full on like punt this dog across the house. Like
annoying.
It wasn't like oh my god I'm scared, or oh my, like it was just like, dude, get off. You know what I mean? It was just it was more just annoying than anything. But then you get and I hate the people. I'm sorry if you're like this, if you're listening and you do this, but the people who like let their dogs like pee and poop all over the house and don't really clean it, or like even in the yard when like you have to go back to like the backyard, and like you can tell they don't clean up after their animal, so you have to like tiptoe around their yard. Like that stuff is annoying to me. I'm like, especially if you know I'm coming, you know what I mean? I think
you would think that's the first
part
thing
that
you do.
kills me is if you know I'm on my way, like at least make an attempt. You know what I mean? Like,
but they always clean it when you're there,
right? It's like, the lady, the ones that kill me, bro, are the ones that go, he never does this, or we usually clean. No, you don't. You know what I mean? Like,
it's
no,
like
you don't.
Shit on top of shit on top of shit.
Yeah, I'm like, you don't. You
It's a park
say
bench.
that. I'm like, bro. Those ones kill me. The ones, this never happens.
Yeah.
I'm so like, bro, that was sitting there for 4 hours before I got here. You know what I mean? Like, that's been there. You're just nasty.
It's probably there 4 weeks.
Yeah, I'm like, you're just nasty,
4 months,
bro. Yeah,
4 months and a half.
Oh,
Man,
those are the worst. You dog people that don't clean up after your dogs, bro. You deserve a special spot in hell. You deserve. That's all I'm gonna say, bro.
Oh man. Well, you know what, Sir Charles? This was super fun.
Oh, this was great.
And you know what? I ran out of
right. I'm just down
whiskey.
To the ice. The show. Let's do it,
yeah, that's
man.
just ice. I gotta give me some more whiskey. So do you.
Hey.
And so we're gonna end the show with this one. We really, really appreciate you coming out here. Thank you so much.
Hey, it's
Thank
about
you.
time.
Thank you, Richard.
Of course.
You're welcome to come back. Hope you come back, share some stories.
Y'all
But you
know
still
where
gotta
to
ask him a
find me.
couple of questions before we leave.
Yeah, so we usually ask the question.
God.
I know you've been, as you said, like short time,
Mhm.
but I always ask, did you choose this job or did the job choose you?
Oh, it for sure chose me.
And in
Like,
what fashion?
100%. When I got this job, this was what? So we're 2024 now. So I was
Pre-pandemic.
2021. Yeah, like it was like right when we were quote unquote coming out of the pandemic, 2021. You know what I mean? And I know that obviously the industry never technically stopped. Like the industry was still working during the pandemic. But during the height of the pandemic for me, I was working from home. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, that fell through, like that wasn't going to last very much longer. And I'm one of them people, like my mom made me get my first job when I was like a junior in high school. You know what I mean? So from a relatively young age, like that's all I knew was like, hey, you got to get your bread. You know what I mean? Like you got to pay the bills. You know what I mean? You got to have some kind of income. So I've never been long without jobs, like a month max before I find something where I can get some kind of bread income, so to make a long story short, because I know we've been here a minute, basically when that started to fall through, I started looking for jobs. I'm like, all right, what can, like, the quickest way I can transition into, next steps, so to speak. And I kid you not, it was timed so perfectly because I was approached about potentially working with my company that I'm with now. Right when that job was falling through, somebody approached me and was like, hey, have you ever considered working in the cable industry? And I was like
at a job fair or something? Or?
It was more so like I knew somebody who knew somebody And so they knew that I was like actively looking for a job. And they were like, yo, so-and-so works for said company. Like, let me introduce you, hook you guys up. That way, maybe you can at least get an interview. And they made it very apparent, like, when we had the initial conversation, like, just so you know, I'm not handing you a job. Like, you still got to go through the process like everybody else. But at least, like, you know, and it's a good job. Like, you make good money, but just know you got to work, which never scared me. I'm one of the people, I don't care about the work. I just care about getting paid. You know what I mean? Like, if I got to do it, I got to do it, you know? And luckily, it still now is, but especially at the time, it was a higher paying job. You know what I mean? So I'm like, cool. So I kid you not, I'll never forget it. The way it worked was I knew that at-home job was falling through. Like, I knew the exact date where it was like, hey, this is going to be your last day. Like, this is where we're cutting you guys off. And I was still waiting. I had already done interviews and stuff for the company that I'm at. And I'll never forget, I did the interviews and I hadn't heard anything. And I know the date where my last job was done. I'm like, so do I need to start looking for something else? Like, are you guys hiring me, or do I need to start looking? And I'm like kind of stressing because I'm like, I'm thinking I had nailed it, but I hadn't heard anything from anyone. So I'm like, and again, I'm like, I need a job. Like, I need to find something. So do I need to start looking into other avenues? And I'll never forget, it was the day before my last job was done. They finally called me back and was like, yeah, you're on. We're going to hire you. Like,
you won the lotto.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just like, bro, and I kid you not, the next day finished up that last one. And then it was 2 days after that I had actually officially started. And they were like, all right, let's start everything. And we're going to start the training and everything. And that's when I started getting paid. So I was technically only 48 hours without a job before I started here.
And now with that, if you had a chance to do it again, do you feel you would have still selected or kept the job?
Right.
Or would you not look for another?
Yeah. And see,
go back
so,
to that.
Right. So that's the tough part, because I've had the conversation. Unfortunately, I don't know if I should say unfortunately, but I'm paid very well considering what I could be getting paid, right? I won't disclose numbers, right? I don't like talking numbers, but for what I could be somewhere else, I'm getting paid very significant now, especially 3 years in. I've been able to kind of carve a path and get to higher pay, you know? So I would do it again, but I would definitely, there are certain things I would do different, obviously, or I would try to make those moves that I have made over the last 3 years a little bit.
You wouldn't
quicker.
listen to those customers that want you to drill.
Exactly.
You
Right?
wouldn't step through that ceiling
certain
like the way you
customers
did.
I would have listened to, certain individuals that I work with that I would not listen to or not be around. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't be high stepping so high.
And screw the guy that left you.
Exactly. That guy would never be here. But like, I definitely would do things differently, but I do think I still would have taken that opportunity because it just allowed a lot of different things in my life that I couldn't imagine life without. You know what I mean?
Right.
It just opened too many avenues.
Mm-hmm.
And as to your question bluntly, yes, I probably still would. I probably still would.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Because even though it's only been 3 years for you, it's been like, how many for you, Richard?
29.
Exactly.
Damn.
And we always talk about it.
Yeah.
For me, it's 17. And yeah, we're still here.
Right. And I think that's the crazy. I mean, it's really what it boils down to is like my personal life is flourishing so much because of it, if that makes sense. Like, yeah,
That makes sense.
work life may suck, but at least, you know, I get to take care of my lady. I get to take care of the people I love. I get to take care of myself. You know, I get to go on those vacations. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's just like.
And the thing too
take
is
it.
like with another job, would you have those opportunities? Would you be getting paid the same?
Exactly.
So-
So I say, like, in hindsight, I would take the opportunity, but I would just make those moves that I've made quicker. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? To kind of accelerate.
In other
the
words, you would have
process.
listened more to me and to Richard.
And to me.
I would say,
Started.
yeah, I would have listened to Georgie and Uncle Rich a little more. You know what I mean? But you know, you live and learn, and you know, I don't know if I will be with the company in 20 years, but like I said, I'm happy that it's opened the avenues that it has, because you know,
Awesome.
I'm able to experience a lot. So
Well, that is freaking awesome. And once again, you know, this is gonna take us to the end.
yes, sir.
Again, I really appreciate you coming.
of course, thank you.
I know Richard appreciates you
absolutely.
coming.
Long time coming,
And
man.
you know, we were there. We've been there for your journey since you started.
Crazy. It's crazy.
So it was really nice that you came out, and you know, out there people got to see your perspective from somebody that's only been here 3 years compared to all the other guys that have been here
For
a lot
sure.
longer. So
Sure.
maybe we can have you back again next time.
Hey, you
I know
know
we're
where to
gonna have a
find
few of the guys back, hopefully,
For sure.
and
for sure.
because everybody's telling me, "Oh, I got more stories." Like, hey, well, we'll bring you
Right.
back.
Right.
And I can only imagine 3 years, all the stories I got versus, you know, the guys who've been here forever. I'm like,
Oh,
I know y'all
definitely.
got stories.
Well, you'll
days,
leave or
bro.
tomorrow and they'll start to follow. you know,
Right?
place
You're like,
and-
oh, why did I tell that story?
Exactly. So write those down for next time.
For sure. For
So,
sure. For sure.
For now, thank you once again. Thank you, Richard.
Yeah, sure.
And everybody, please subscribe, share,
Subscribe, goddammit. I need them subscribers, dog.
and please like all these episodes. Let us know on your comments what else you want to hear about. And until next time,
Yes, sir.
thank you so much. Shift out, shift over.